Hello. Alright, I think we're live now. I'm gonna get this going in just a moment. While I set some things up. Okay. Now, unless I'm mistaken, should be able to see my screen. Okay, yeah. Alright, good. Okay, so in this class, I'm going to be showing you how to design your own website. And not just creating any design, but one that's designed to get sales. So we'll be covering a lot of the key elements that good designs have, and be focusing on, you know, the types of things that you need to pay attention to, what makes a good design, what makes bad design, and yeah, covering some tools and different things like that. So let's get started here. So I've been building websites for over 20 years. I'm Lisa Lee, by the way, and I mainly build websites for small businesses, and so I can show you what I do when I design different websites, and some of the tools that I use, some other ones that I don't, and some other things that, you know, you should find helpful. The main point of this is to help equip you with the information and tools and things like that that can help you to successfully build your own website, if that's what you want to do. And this can help save you time, it can save you money, and especially with the economy. And yeah, so this is becoming easier and easier for people to be able to do, especially with AI. So this is just one more thing that will help get you there. Alright, so what I'll be covering is website design principles and user experience, and then if needed we'll take a short break, but we'll be covering color theory and typography and layout, things that make a website user-friendly and intuitive, and certain elements that you need to have to increase sales. And then I'll be covering practical tools and responsive design. I'll talk about what that is, why that's important, and different things that you're going to need to know. Okay, and then afterwards, if there's any questions, we can do a Q&A session. Okay, so some of the basics of website design. Great design is going to be tailored to the user experience, and it's going to be tailored to motivate people to take some course of action. Typically that's to buy something or sign up for something. So in order to achieve that, what you want to try to do is keep it simple and focused. So if you have too many things going on with your website, if it's too difficult to use, things like that are going to drive away your prospective customers, people that show up to your website. You also need to try to use color theory and white space. So colors can actually influence the perception of your website, and it can communicate things about your brand and other messages that you may intentionally or unintentionally be conveying to your audience. And so these subtle things can make a difference, not just in your logo, but in the design itself. Another thing that you need to do is make your content super easy to read. It should be a good size that they can read it, should be in the right color, spacing, you know, use readable fonts and things like that. I won't go more into detail on this, but you know, having your content readable, that's super important. Another thing you want to try and use is use authentic photos and optimize them so that they load quickly on your website. If you use too many stock photos, it can look bad in the sense that it makes your website seem less trustworthy and less authentic. Whereas if you use actual photos of, you know, yourself or your staff or your products or things like that, it helps to build trust with your audience, and so that they'll see, oh, okay, and, you know, we'll go into more later. The next thing is you want to use intuitive layouts and user-friendly design. So you want to make sure that it's easy to navigate, that it's going to be super easy to actually use, that they know where to find things, and make it as easy as possible to buy. Alright, so I don't know if you've ever heard of this acronym before, but KISS, Keep It Simple Stupid, is one of the key things that you want to try to go for. So you want it to be simple and focused. You don't want to overwhelm people with too much stuff. You don't want too much content on there. You don't want too many busy elements going on, like animations or things like that. Way back in the 90s and stuff in the early 2000s, there was pretty crazy website designs that were not always very good, and it usually had flashing things and silly animations as, you know, GIFs of like animated people or characters or things and stuff. A lot of clip art and things like that. You don't want to stay away from those types of things. Keep it clear, you know, make it easy to read and browse and use. So you want each page to have some sort of clear purpose, so it exists for a reason. You want to make it valuable to whoever's browsing your website. So if it's an about page, then you need to have information about your business, about what you do, about products or whatever it is that you're trying to offer. Because you have to try and think of it as, what is your ultimate goal with the whole website? If you're trying to sell something, then you need to be able to convince the person that's viewing it on, you know, what you have to offer and why they should buy it. So you have to demonstrate that, you know, you're trustworthy. You have to demonstrate that the offer, you know, whether it's a product or service or whatever, is valuable, and that, you know, you provide enough information that people can make a decision. And so if you have a clear purpose for each page, so, you know, your shop page will be designed, you know, to motivate people to buy. You might have another page that encourages people to sign up for an account, or might have email sign up list or something like that. You'll have different things with a clear purpose to try and drive people to take an action. You want to make sure that your navigation is super easy. So people need to be able to go to your website and be able to find what they're looking for within seconds. They don't want to have to search your website. That's not their job. Their job is just to go to your website and they're looking for something. What are they looking for? Make it easy to find. So you can do that with having a menu at the top with things that are very easy for them to understand and read. And we'll go more into that later, but having clear labels will help them to be able to do that. You want to not have too many flashy elements, not too many colors or fonts or anything, because that can distract people. It can be overwhelming. It can detract away from, you know, your goal of trying to get them to do something. And oh, by the way, if you have questions, feel free to put it in the chat. I am trying to monitor that. Alright, so a pro tip is you want to make sure that people can go to your website and find what they're looking for within a few seconds, because you only have like 3 seconds to try to get their, you know, get them to take the next step, which is whatever it is that they come to. So you want to keep them on your website as long as you can. But if they're going to your website and then, you know, leaving, they may have either gotten what they wanted, you know, off of the single page or something, or they didn't find what they were looking for, and you need to modify the website so that it serves them better. So you can drive them to take another action, whether it's visiting another page, signing up for something, doing some sort of, you know, action. Alright, you want to use color and spacing effectively. So your colors should obviously match your brand. So if you have an existing brand, you want to make sure that you match it. But you also need to pay attention to how colors can influence the way people perceive your website and your brand and your company and things like that. So if you're using a theme, say, that uses a totally black, you know, look to it, but your other branding doesn't match that, it can seem off. And so you want to make sure that you're using things that are going to match, and that also communicate what you're trying to convey to people. And I'll talk more about theory shortly. You want to make sure that your call to action buttons stand out, but aren't too overwhelming, because that can be distracting as well. You also want to use white space and that's around text and images. Make sure that things are spaced and not too cramped together, because you want to make it as easy to read, because people are going to be skimming through the website. They're not going to sit there and read every word. They're going to be looking at headlines. They're going to be looking at certain elements as they go through, and they're looking for something. And you know, those keywords that they're looking for are going to pop out to them, and you want to make sure that they can catch those as they look at your website. Alright, so now about colors. I have put together a couple slides about the different colors and what they are best suited for. So blue is basically something that's used to convey trust, dependability, calm. These are things that it's kind of known to convey, and that might have built up over time from a lot of financial, corporate, technology websites, bank websites, different things like that, that use those colors, and so people kind of associate that kind of meaning with that color. And so it's often used for a lot of professional sites, things like that, whereas something like red, you know, conveys passion, energy, urgency. You know, it's good for like retail and entertainment, food. That tends to, you know, be something where you're going to want people kind of feeling energy, passionate, you know, wanting to buy something. That's why the red color is used for sales, like promotional signs and stuff. Green tends to convey like growth and health and prosperity and wellness and things like that. So it can be a great fit for, you know, health websites and those that are, you know, about the environment, financial brands, organic stuff, investment firms because of money and stuff. So things that are, you know, going to be a good fit for green, you know, would be along those lines. All right, so yellow. Yellow is good for attention grabbing, you know, sales, inexpensive, optimism, happiness, those kinds of things. It can be really good for children, you know, focused businesses and websites, things that are creative, artistic, innovative, you know, products, and stuff like that. So that's what it conveys. Now, orange is also another kind of color. It's also kind of used for sales too, because red, yellow, and orange are very similar colors, and so in that range, and so they can convey, you know, kind of a cheapness to it in a sense, particularly yellow and orange. But orange can convey friendly, enthusiasticness, confidence. It's good for retail and entertainment and nonprofit. And it kind of encourages, you know, action and volunteer work and things like that. Now, purple is good for things when you want to convey luxury, creativity, wisdom, intelligence. It's used a lot for high-end products, beauty, creative industries and stuff. Black conveys elegance, sophistication, and power. It's really good for fashion and luxury and professional services, where elegance, you know, high-end is kind of expected. White is good for simplicity, cleanness, modern, you know, a modern look. It's very typically minimalist. You know, Google's homepage, you know, the search engine is plain white, and it's very focused and very minimal design. It's used in a lot of modern websites, you know, for all kinds of different firms. So tech startups, health services, consulting firms are just some examples. Okay, so other than color, you also need to pay attention to typography. So the fonts that you use need to be easy to read, obviously, and so you want to pay attention to how they look on mobile, not just on wide screens. And so if you have some fancy fonts, make sure that it's still readable on smaller devices. You also need to pay attention to the font size. So across different devices, and I'll talk more on this, you can set different sizes so that it will be readable and still stand out on the page, especially for headings and things like that. But generally speaking, for body text, you can set it to something like 16 pixels. We'll talk more about pixels later. Alright, so the other thing is you need to be consistent, so don't use too many fonts. Try to stick to 2 or 3 or so, and then use them consistently. So if you're using one font for headings and the rest for body text, try and stick with that. You can also use some other headings, like another font for a heading, but don't try to do too many, as it can just look weird and be off-putting. The other thing you need to do is make sure you have a strong contrast. So if you have a dark background with light text, like my slide here, it helps to make the text readable. So that's more, important than the background itself. So as you can see, I just have a picture of a laptop in the background. This is just, something I threw on there. My main focus is providing content, and so less on trying to make it fancy. I want it to be readable, pretty simple, and yeah, that was my priority with that. But that's just an example, so you can also use dark text on a light background, of course. But you want to make sure you use high contrast colors so the text is easy to read and be able to view it. If you have some text that isn't as important, then you can, fade it out so it doesn't get too overwhelming on a page, but generally speaking, anything that's super important that you want people to be able to read, make it stand out with strong contrasting colors. Alright, you also want to make sure that you're using images effectively. As I mentioned before, having real images can make a difference, so, at least I think I mentioned it before, but you can of course use stock images, and using stock images is very common. You can also use AI generated images, but it's always best to try to use at least some real photos, whether it's of yourself, your business, your staff, your products, your services, things like that. You need to use real photos wherever possible, because that's going to help people to be able to trust you. And so when you look at a real photo versus a stock photo, there's a big difference in, what it looks like, and people can tell. And so if you can use real photos on your website, that is, far better than not, and it just conveys that it's more authentic and trustworthy when you do that. And but be sure that whatever images you choose to use, that you use high quality ones that are not pixely, so that it's suitable for whatever size screen that you're trying to do and the placement and stuff, and that you also optimize it. So optimizing just means you compress the file size. So when you download a photo, it will generally, be a certain size, and that means like in pixels, so it might be really big, it might be small, whatever size it is. You want to choose something that's appropriate. And furthermore, it's also going to have a file size associated with it. That's like in, kilobytes or megabytes and stuff. I don't want to be too technical with that, but usually if you look in, your file explorer type thing, whatever platform computer system you're using, and you look at the file, there's usually a number associated with that, and that's the file size, and it's going to generally be, some sort of value, and if that number is too big, and I'll explain later, but you can make it smaller so it's faster for people to load it. If you have a large a large image and a large file size, it can slow down your website. So you want to make sure that you optimize it for speed, that you use a appropriate size for where it's going to go on your website, and that's super important. Another thing you should try to do is to use real photos of customers. So if you have photos of your customers using your products or services, then it helps your visitors to your website to imagine themselves using it, and it just increases your conversion rate. Alright, so the next important thing that you need to do is to use user-friendly layouts. So the purpose of your website is to guide your visitors to take some sort of action. Sorry, I have a cat and he is climbing at me. Alright. That may be, having them request an estimate. It may be making a purchase, having them sign up for a newsletter, or some other action. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, you want to organize your content so that it flows logically, so that it makes sense, and that it... What are you doing, Mr. Tiki? So that it makes sense with your call to action. So some example, maybe you have some sort of sale or some sort of offering, and so you have an eye-catching offer like on the homepage. Then they can click to get some more information about it. So then they learn more about it, you know, and they go, oh, okay, and then it has a clear... Oh, he walked on the keyboard. Okay. A clear call to action. I think I might need to set him aside somewhere. What do you think? It's like, pay attention to me. Aww. Okay. So on the page with the additional information, you'll have a call to action on there where they can go, oh, okay, this is the next thing to do. And so have a logical flow that guides people. So it's kind of like a sales funnel in a sense, that you're trying to direct people to go take some particular action. You want to make it as simple as possible. So you want it so that it's super easy for them to do and it doesn't take them much time. And so there's a, you know, few clicks to buy is a good rule of thumb. You want to make it so that they just click, you know, 2 or 3 times from the landing page and then they, you know, are done. So you want it to be as simple, easy, and fast as possible for them, because that's going to increase your chance that they'll buy from you. And then the third thing is you want to make sure that it's a mobile-friendly design. Most of the website traffic that, you know, is done these days is on mobile devices. So it needs to look good and be easy to use on a mobile device. And so people are going to be using their smartphone to look at it, and so it needs to be just something that they can scroll and it looks good and be able to do the things that they need to do on the mobile phone. Alright, call to action. So you want to use a call to action. This is what you want your visitor to do next. So that's what I was saying before, is like placing an order, requesting an estimate, signing up for a newsletter, making a call. Whatever it is, you want your clear call to action that's easy to find and easy for them to understand. You want to take out any complication. You want to use action-oriented words, so like get started, buy now, pay here, whatever it is, you want to use those types of words so that they can go, oh, okay, this is the thing I need to click on, and then they click on it and it will take the next step. You want to place the buttons strategically. The call to actions could be buttons also, but it might also just be text. You can use different methods to try to get it, but whatever the call to action is, you need to place it strategically so that it's easy to see, and you typically need it on like a landing page below product descriptions or service descriptions, other types of content where it makes sense. You want to also test it, so you can try using different colors and different positions, different wording, trying different things to see if that improves your conversion rates. Because sometimes just a simple color change or placement change can make a big difference. So a pro tip I want to share with you is using like text call to action. So you can have some text on your page, maybe about a product or whatever, and then you have, you know, a buy now button. Well, you can also include some additional links inside the content where it makes sense, that they can click on to be able to get to it faster. So they don't have to look directly for a button somewhere on the page. So it just kind of makes it a little bit more user-friendly, in case that they're reading the content and they're like, oh yeah, okay, and then they, you know, can click on the text link and not just have to look through for a button to click on. Alright, so the next thing we need to talk about is using testimonials on your website. So having social proof, like customer reviews and testimonials, will obviously make a difference when you are trying to get people to buy from you. So by demonstrating other people have bought from you and those are happy with their purchase, that can help encourage others to do so as well. You want to make sure that you're using real customer testimonials. There's lots of people that will try to offer, fake testimonials and reviews online, on like sites like Fiverr and stuff like that. Stay away from that. Stick with real customer testimonials, because if you get found out that you're using something like that, that can hurt you later. Even if it seems convincing at the time. So you want to make sure that you have actual testimonials that can be verified too, and not just, throw in some example quotes. A lot of, websites, like the templates or something, might have some example testimonial content. Don't leave those up. Remove it. Even if it seems like it would help, it's better to remove that and try and be honest with your customers. You want to try and demonstrate, that you are trustworthy and authentic. So make sure that you display real customer testimonials somewhere on your website so it's easy for them to see and find that. And you can also share some customer success stories as well. If you have any of that, then you can demonstrate that they had great success, and that can help as well. You want to make sure that you showcase any press or partnerships, of course, on your website. So if you happen to be mentioned in the news, like either a local newspaper or a local news station, or national, level, whatever it is, or if you partner with some other company, you can feature that, and that can help to get trust off of those other companies and sources. And so you're kind of borrowing some of their, what's it called? Reputation from some of them. So you'll see a lot of companies mentioned, like big name brands sometimes on their website. They're trying to borrow from that loyalty base and that reputation to improve their own. All right, so let me see. Oh, I accidentally included that tip again. So I just ignore that. All right, so user experience design, that's shortened to UX. It just refers to how visitors feel when they interact with your website. Now, you want to make sure that they feel confident when they're visiting your website, and that they have a positive experience so that they'll be more likely to return. So you want to ask questions like, is your website easy to navigate? Whenever someone lands on your website, they should be able to find what they're looking for quickly and easily. If they get frustrated, if they can't find something, it can result in them leaving and not coming back. You want to make sure that all the important information is super easy to find. So whatever they need to make a decision to follow through on your call to action, you want to make sure that it's easy and readily available so that they can get to that information, be able to see it, and then be able to make their decision on whether or not to move forward. And then you need to make sure that your checkout, process is quick and hassle-free. So, if you ask yourself, how easy is it for them to, proceed with the call to action, typically that's a checkout process. You want to make sure that it's easy for them to sign up, to place the order, to be able to pay. All these kinds of things can increase your conversions as long as it's easy. If you start making things difficult, it stresses them out and complicates things and deters people from following through. And so, if you have a lengthy form, for example, if you're trying to get too much information from a customer, that can drive them away because it takes too much of their time. And then they might feel like it's too invasive. If it's too difficult, to complete, then they may not finish and follow through. They may start and then drop off. If it simply just seems like it's going to take too much time for them to do, then they'll, leave, and maybe they might try to come back later, but we'll probably forget. So these are things that you want to make sure that you're paying attention to. Okay, so user interface design. It's abbreviated UI, and it has to do with the look and feel of your website. So these are the design elements, like buttons and fonts, colors and images and stuff that users are interacting with. You want to make sure that the UI is clean and appealing. It needs to be, you don't want it to be cluttered. as I had mentioned before, you want to use good spacing around things. You want it to look good across devices. You want clear, clickable buttons, so it should be easy to find, and very clear what those things do when they click on it. And then you also want the design to be consistent across all the pages of your website so that, matches. And, that will help make it look good and be more trustworthy. Alright, so some key design elements for UI and UX design is you want to make sure that you have simple navigation. So you want to have clear labels and limit the number of menu options that you have. You also want to include a search bar if you have a lot of content for them to browse or a lot of products. You want to try to design mobile first, to try to remember that a lot of people that visit your website are probably going to be using a smartphone or a tablet, and this can affect the look of your website, depending on the different screen sizes and different devices. So if your buttons may look great on one screen size but look bad on another, it can hurt your chances of making sales because people will be, have a harder time reading it, or just it can affect their experience with your website. You also want to keep your forms short and easy so that they can fill it out on mobile devices and be able to tap buttons with their fingers and those kinds of things. You want to use clear call to action, so use your action words and strategic placement as I mentioned before. You also want some contrast so that the buttons will stick out. And you want to make sure that you keep your website fast, so try to compress any large images that you have, limit the use of plugins or scripts or special features, and try to use a fast hosting provider, because these things can impact how quickly your website loads, and you only have a few seconds to get their attention and be able to keep them from clicking away. Your readability and layout is also important, so you want to use headings to break up your content, keep your paragraphs short, and then use fonts and text sizes that are going to be easy to read across devices. You also want to make sure that you have clear feedback, so like confirmation messages, error messages, loading indicators. So these are good for forms and shopping carts and different interactive elements. So if they sign up, have some sort of message that, tells them that they're signed up now. And if they send a message to your contact form, you want some sort of message that says, hey, your message was sent, and so that they understand that something has taken place, that it has worked. You also want to use visual hierarchy, so larger text for headlines and key information. You want to highlight any key actions you want them to take, and keep any of the crucial, critical information near the top of the page. That's like above the fold. So what that means is that when someone lands on a web page, that space within that screen on the device, whatever they're viewing it on, is the most important real estate on the website. So you want to try and keep your important information up in that section so that they can, take the action and they'll see it more readily in that area and without having to scroll. Alright, so some design tools and resources that you can use. There are website builders. There's lots of them. You can use a website builder like a full platform, like Wix or Squarespace. You can also use plugins like the page builders, Beaver Builder and Elementor. These things can help you to build layouts that look good and, be able to control the styles and, responsiveness of the website. Unicorn Platform and ZipWP are also great as well because they can design things and they will take into consideration all of these things for you. So they will typically handle a lot of that so you don't have to worry about it. So it's kind of like a shortcut. And I will talk more on that in a bit. But all of these things can help, you to design a website pretty easily yourself without having to hire someone, and that will enable you to be able to do this and, be able to implement these strategies that I'm telling you pretty easily because they have drag and drop options and things like that. So you can click and, drop in these elements. where you need it to be and change the styles and things like that. Now, content generation, you can use tools like ChatGPT, Jasper AI, or other ones. These tools can help you come up with content, but not only that, you can use it for call to action, buttons and things like that. You can get the words to use, mainly with these tools, because it focuses on generating content. You can use it to generate headlines and other text for your website. ChatGPT, though, is great because it'll help you actually even plan a website. So if you tell it, I want to build a website on, flowers, like a flower shop or something like that, you can tell it, some things about your business, and then it can tell you, oh, well, you should have these pages, you could have this information on it, here's some example FAQs you can put on. You can get a lot of stuff for that, and help, it'll help you plan it so you know what to include on it. And so that's just another time-saving tool that you can use and access. The other thing you can use is for images. So you can use images like free stock photo sites. There's plenty of those. But you can also use AI image generators. These are very low-cost options, depending on what you use. But there are free, sources, and then there's paid sources. You can use a combination. You also have the ability to use image editors, so there's free ones and paid ones, of course. I'll show you some free ones in a bit, and you can use these tools to resize and optimize the images you find pretty easily. The other thing that you want to make sure that you use is some sort of caching. So most website platforms will have some kind of caching tools. These will help speed up your website, and of course the options and the settings are going to vary, but they can dramatically reduce the amount of time it takes for your website to load when someone visits it. Alright, so the next thing we're going to talk about is accessibility. When we're talking about accessibility, we're talking about people with disabilities that may visit your website. So if you think your website is going to be, viewed by people that may be disabled or blind or deaf or any other type of visual, auditory, motor, or cognitive impairment, if you find that they're going to use your website, or if you're legally required to, you'll need to make sure that it's accessible. And so what this is going to do is make your website in a format that they can actually browse with their disability tools that are going to help them to understand what's on the website and things like that. So someone who's blind, will be able to understand what your website is about and be able to understand what's on the page even though they can't see it. So why it can matter? Well, there's roughly 1 in 4 people that have some kind of disability, and so if your site is accessible, you can capture that, portion of the population. It also helps to build trust and loyalty, so if it, is something that everyone can use, it can help, build long-term relationships and trust in, the community, though I don't see it as common. It can provide SEO benefits, though. So Google is going to favor websites that are well structured and that are easy to navigate and that have accessibility features, which also go with SEO practices. So SEO is search engine optimization, and so if you want to learn more about that, you can, check out my SEO class on that. The other benefit is that it can help you avoid legal issues. So in some countries or some industries, you may be required to have a website that is accessible. So being able to meet the accessibility standards will help you avoid lawsuits. Alright, so some best practices for achieving that is to use the descriptive alt text with your images. So you want to have some sort of description of what the image is of, and that will help the people using screen readers to understand what the image is. It also helps to have that, so if the image doesn't load, people will see the text instead. The other key thing that you want to make sure is to have high contrast for text and background. So that's just a design principle just for, general use, but it's also good for accessibility. So having light gray text on a white background can be hard for someone who has a disability to be able to read, especially if they have some sort of visual impairment, and they may not be able to read the content. But more so than that, some browsers and some devices may have certain settings in them that can make that text look darker or lighter in certain cases. So while you may be able to read it on your device, it may be harder for someone else to read it because it looks a little bit different based on their settings or different other things like that. So it's something to try to strive to use as just high contrast whenever possible. You want to make sure that your website is keyboard accessible. So there are some users that have to use a keyboard to navigate websites instead of a mouse. So being able to navigate and go down your website using, like the tab key and arrow keys and things like that, making sure it can work that way will go a long way in making your website accessible for those with those types of disability tools. Alright, you also want to make sure that any videos that you have some kind of captions or transcripts. These will help to, well, it's going to help people that have, hearing issues, and so rather than having them, try to struggle to hear, it can help, also with other languages too, if they're trying to if English is not their first language, having captions and, transcriptions and, can help in that way as well. It just helps people understand what is in the video content and audio and stuff without having to rely solely on the audio. Alright, you want to make sure that your forms are designed with accessibility, so that means that they can navigate the forms and be able to fill them out easily with their keyboard. You also want to make sure that, you have fonts and text sizes that are going to be easy for people to read. So if you use too small of text, it can make it really hard on certain people, especially if they have dyslexia or visual impairments. You also need to make sure that your website is responsive, as mentioned before. That means that they can use a computer, tablet, or smartphone to view your website, and it'll still be readable and accessible and usable. And so even, that means it'll also work with screen readers and things like that to be able to navigate your website. And then you can also test your website for accessibility. So if this is something important to you, you can test your website with tools like the Wave Accessibility Checker or Lighthouse. That can help you get some ideas for what issues your website may have and what things you may need to do to improve it. Alright, now, responsive web design. This means that your website is going to automatically fit to whatever screen it's being viewed on. So if someone's looking on a phone and they look at your website, it needs to be, it needs to look good and be easy for them to use and still be readable. And then if they look on the same website but on a different device, like a tablet where the screen is a bit wider, or a laptop where the screen may be even wider than that, or on a wide screen computer or something like that, it needs to be usable and readable and not, the text needs to be a good size and the images need to be a good size so it's easy for them to still navigate and view everything on the website. So that's what responsive design is all about. So whether it's a large screen or a small screen, whatever it is, it needs to be able to adjust and still be good and readable. Alright, so the reason this is important is it's going to ensure that whoever visits your website is going to have a good experience. So it doesn't matter what device that they use, they're still going to be able to view it and be able to access it and do the things that they need to do on it. This is going to also improve the conversions so that you not just, get people on one device to be able to buy, but on other devices as well. And then it also boosts your SEO so that it can help your website rank in the search engine results higher than if it wasn't responsive. Alright, so how do you do it? Well, typically speaking, most modern tools are already equipped with some capability to make a responsive website. So you can use page builders, you can use website builders, platforms, like Wix or Squarespace, Unicorn Platform, Zip, WP. These are all different tools that are equipped to be able to handle the responsive website design. Some keys to keep in mind is that, if you do choose one of these platforms, you choose something that, is going to have a responsive theme. So whatever device it is, most themes are typically going to be responsive. However, you might come across some that aren't, or some that just don't look as good, that may be somewhat responsive but may have some design issues or display issues and stuff. And so these are things that you need to kind of keep in mind and test before you choose a theme. You can also optimize your images and the text so that it looks good across all devices. So a lot of platforms and tools and stuff will have some sort of features included that make it so you can change the font size for certain devices. You can optimize images so they load faster. You can, let's see. You can do different things too, where you can replace certain images with something else, or different things like that. It just depends on what tools you're using and what platforms and stuff and what features those particular tools have. Okay, sorry. But it's important to kind of preview your website at the different screen sizes so you can get an idea of how things are going to fall and be placed in the different screen resolutions. You want to try and avoid fixed width elements, so things like buttons or boxes or things like that, because when you do that, it will typically stay the same size no matter what screen it's viewed on, and that can be a problem. So it can make it look too small on certain devices, too big on certain other devices. So it's better to use some sort of percentage-based width or other ways of setting the width than just setting a flat value. If you do use flat values, you can just make sure that you are adjusting it for the different screen sizes, so that you have different key sizes that you stick with, and I'll explain that with a demonstration in a bit. Trying to check the time here. Alright, so the next thing is you can test your website for responsiveness. The way you do that is you can start with your own devices. So you can use different, whatever devices you have, use different web browsers, and you can change the size of the web browsers. I'll show you a bit about that. You can also use the online testing tools, so there's different screen previewing tools that can take screenshots of your website on different devices, but those are less important. But you can use Google's mobile friendly test and Responsinator and Screenfly or something. So these tools are available so you can test it on different screen devices and stuff. You can also check your page speed for mobile, so you can use Google Page Speed Insights to get their system's analysis of how long it estimates for your website to take to load. The loading speed is going to vary based on numerous things, so it can be, these tools are just kind of there for a guide and may not actually reflect reality, and there may be some other issues that can come up that can skew the results of the page speed tests and other tools that try to preview it and things. There are tools, though, that you can use in the browser itself that are designed for developers, and it will allow you to view the website, as a preview of what it can look like on a small screen. But of course, all these methods can generate different results. So just because you see your website as one way doesn't mean everybody's going to see it the same way. There's so many different things that can influence it, from the device settings to different browsers and things like that can all influence certain elements of it. Though a lot of it has gotten better over the years, over the past 20 years. It's significantly better and easier than it used to be. But there are still some little issues that can come up, and sometimes some browsers just are not as good to view a website on as some others. So just for your knowledge, so you understand that. Alright, so some best practices for responsive design. As stated before, you're going to try and design something with mobile in mind, typically first. I'm old school though, so I'm used to designing stuff for computers, and then when the mobile phones came out, then I was just kind of like, but now they're the dominant market, so most website traffic is through a mobile phone now, and so it's important to design the website with mobile users in mind, but also don't forget desktops as well, because those can also be used with different screen sizes and devices as well that can impact the way your website looks. The next thing you want to do is make sure that you have large clickable buttons. So on small screens, this is especially important. You want your buttons to be easy to tap. I don't know if you've ever noticed this before, but on some websites you might come across, it might be hard to press a little button because it's very small, and you have to be very careful, and you may click on something that you didn't mean to because it's just so hard to click. So you want to try and make sure that it's big enough for people to be able to click on, and is easy for them to be able to see too on a smaller device. You should also try to test it regularly, so as you make changes, so try to make sure that everything is still looking good on the different devices. So whenever you add content or images or design, other design changes, it can affect the responsiveness of the page, so you want to make sure you adjust those things when you do changes. Try to keep your design simple. So on small screens, less is more. That's a general good rule of thumb. So anything that's unnecessary, you can hide those things for mobile users, but then display them for someone with a larger screen. By doing this, it helps to prevent your visitors from being overwhelmed, and it helps them to see the key content, like contact information, product information, things like that. Alright, so we're getting close to the demonstration now. So some of the key takeaways, though, from all of this, you need to keep in mind the key design principles. So you want something that's going to be simple, clean, uncluttered, and easy navigation. And then you want to use color theory, so something's going to represent your brand, and that's also going to, guide their user action, things like that. So it's stuff that's going to complement them with like call to action that uses colors as well, so it stands out. You want to try and use clear, readable fonts and sizes for your typography, and use high quality optimized images for, whatever graphical elements you use on your website. And then you want to make sure that your content is organized so that it flows and has a mobile-friendly design and just a good layout. And then for the user experience and user interface, use simplified navigation, call to action buttons. You want to optimize it for speed, and all these things will help make it easier to get people to do what you want them to do. Your user experience and interface design. Let's see. Well, I don't know what I was doing there. I apparently have it cloned there for some reason. Alright, I guess maybe I accidentally pasted something else in. Sorry about that. Accessibility best practices, so you're going to want to use alt text for images, use high contrast, and make sure your website is, can be navigated with the keyboard. Alright, so some other points you want to make sure is that you use responsive design, and that you test the website, and that you use the best practices, so use large enough buttons on mobile, and test it regularly, design for mobile first. And then ways you can make it responsive, use a responsive theme, but most typically are these days. You can optimize images and text for all devices, and so you can, resize them based on different screen sizes, and then try to avoid using fixed width elements. Try to use flexible widths so that it adjusts with the screen. A lot of tools will do this automatically for you. We'll talk about that shortly here. Okay, so now let us go to the next phase of this. Alright, so now, let me see, I'm trying to find it. Okay. Alright, so now we're going to talk about the actual designing of a web page. So, alright. Okay, so this is a website that was generated with CSTWe. It's an AI website generator. It generates things rapidly. You put in some information and it generates content and layouts and sorry, I saw flashing lights. But everything for you. You select some images, it drops in those images for, it puts them in random places. So you select different pictures and then it will take those and use those. And it puts in, your information, your contact information for you. It sets everything up, creates the pages, and designs everything completely for you. This is like one of the easiest website builders I've ever seen. I'm using a local server here. Site. It's not quite working right, but that's not quite important. The main thing is that you get an idea that you can have all this done for you. You can see that it's got a this is a call to action, how it says shop now. It's got a large heading. This is above the fold, meaning on a wide screen, this is what it looks like. Now, if you right click and go to inspect, you'll see a whole bunch of scary stuff. Don't worry about that. There's a tiny little icon in the top right and it says responsive design mode. If you press Ctrl-Shift-M or just click it, this is a preview of what it could look like on a phone. And you can adjust the size of it to see what it might look like on different screen sizes, and it handles all of this for you. So this is one of the powerful things about CSTWe is that it basically designs a whole entire website, makes it mobile friendly, and does it all for you. It generates content and everything. So this is an amazing tool that you can use today instantly to generate an entire website. So and it handles all the best design practices there for you. If you look at the top, it has simple, easy, clean navigation. It's got everything on here that people are going to be interested in knowing. It does all of the stuff, it has all the practices. It's got good, clean, high resolution images. It's got everything optimized, done for you. If you're looking for the easiest, fastest thing, this is what to use. Because you don't have to, worry about designing it and stuff. You have different layouts that you can choose from. It takes care of everything, and it's just an outstanding tool. Of course, I've got it set up on a local server, not on a live one, so if you try to go to this URL, it's not going to come up. It's just on my local computer, and that's why it's not working properly. If I had it hosted somewhere, then it would actually work properly. You'd be able to see all the pages and everything like that. But this is just, an example to show you. It doesn't like that it's on a local environment, and that's why it's broken. But I just wanted to show it, to you to show this is a good, design for a website. It's got, the standard layout where you have things in a predictable way, where you have a logo on the left, you have navigation on the right. It's very predictable. So when people go to your website, they can typically find what they are looking for very quickly and very easily without having to stress about it or think about it. They'll just go, oh, okay, there it is right there. Oh, there's services. Oh, there's contact. It's all right there. Very easy, very clear what it is. They don't have to try to figure it out or decipher what you're trying to say. It's just there. There's a call to action here. Get a free quote today, and then there's testimonials, just like I mentioned before. And then it uses years of experience. If you use numbers, it helps to, it captures eyes better. So if you have a specific number, it can make it look better. So having instead of like saying 200, it's better to use 147 or something like that rather than rounding. It's better to use specific numbers, as that can catch attention and draw people's eyes. You can also see that it's got a good headline here. There's high contrast, so it's very easy to read. The text, is spaced out. There's white space in between the sections. So this is white space here. Over here is white space around the different elements so that they're spaced well. You have consistent design, consistent headings. You've got little bullet points that are little triangles. You've got different elements and stuff on it. It's not overwhelming. It's not going to distract people. It's just like, discover your perfect widget here. I mean, this is just an example website, but it's got all the design elements that make it look good and that make it convert. So these are things that, you can use ZipWe to get a website that is already tuned and ready to go instantly to be able to do all these things. Now, it's also got a section for, testimonials. Of course, these are fake. You'd want to use real ones, not fake people, because that's just not authentic and, people will find you out. If they care, anyway. And then you can see the different backgrounds, the different sections here. It's all pretty easy to read. This part, is a little bit harder just because of the choice of image that it put there. But the tools provide, the ZipWe makes it possible to change that image with something else. I just can't demonstrate it with this example right now because it's not a live site, but it's just there to give you an idea. Now, what I typically work with is something called Beaver Builder. It's one of my, it's been my favorite page builder for, several years anyway. I've lost track, but with it, I can design an entire page pretty quickly and easily, depending on the theme that I'm working with. Beaver Builder provides a theme, at least their pro version does. Then you can install the theme and, customize it and tailor it, and it's all designed to work with their page builder. But it's not the only one. There's something called Elementor. It's a very popular one. I tend to prefer Beaver Builder because I feel like it's a more cost-effective, easy-to-use solution. Elementor tends to charge, I think, some amount per website. I don't know too much about it, but it's definitely popular and used a lot by a lot of web designers. There's also some other ones too, but I can't remember the names. But in either case, they are pretty similar in the sense that they will make it so you can design a page. Rather than using the standard page builder, which I will show you. So if you use like WordPress, these page builders are made for WordPress. I probably need to mention that. And ZipWe is for WordPress as well. WordPress is, a free platform, but you host it wherever, with whatever company you want. And, it can give you access to a lot of plugins and tools and things that you can use and easily install on your website and customize. And so, you know, with their page builder, it's really powerful. So for example, you know, if you have WP page example, so I'm just using something like that. If you have a standard editor, you can use the different, you know, elements that you just drag and drop where you want it to go. And so, you know, and you can drag and drop over here, and it's pretty straightforward and easy. But the design for stuff that's built in WordPress is pretty limiting, and that's where you get these other tools that will design and build these things for you. If you use something like Wix or Squarespace or one of the other page builders, they will handle a lot of things for you. You'll use their page builder with their, you know, features with whatever plan you choose, and you know, it's going to have some different options, and it's going to work a little bit differently, but they all have some things that are similar. But the default page editor is pretty limited in WordPress. So I can, you know, do a lot of things. I could drop in an image, and let me just add in the same image. Oh, and here is the alt text field. So we can say man with hand, you know, man shaking hand with air or something. I'm not really sure. Or shake hands with man. I don't know, something like that. That just describes it. You can use it for. Let me disable that real quick. Sorry about that. Sorry, I got too many notifications there. Alright, so you can describe the image, and then, you know, that puts in alt text. That's for accessibility. You can also see that it's over here as well, the alternative text, so you can put in your keywords, you can put in things to describe it, and these are words that if someone's using a screen reader, it's going to read out to describe the image. You typically are going to want to use this with images that have some kind of importance, not just like something that's just for decoration or that's irrelevant, because it's going to read it, and it may annoy people if they're, you know, visually impaired and they're using a screen reader, and then it's going through and talking about you know, all these keywords or something. You know, so if you think that you're going to have people that are visually impaired or disabled using some sort of accessibility device using your website, then you may want to keep these things in mind when you're setting that up. But the default page editor is going to have some basic elements and tools to insert text and different things like that. But it's pretty limiting, especially when it comes to the responsiveness. You can view it and preview it on different devices from the page editor. But compared to the tools I'm going to show you in a minute, there's a big difference. So this is just the default editor. Okay, now I've put together, you know, some similar pages with Beaver Builder and Elementor. Okay, and you can see that there's already some differences between them. With Beaver Builder, if we edit the page, so you can see I have a Beaver Builder button up here. You can see that it's going to load it, and you can view all these different blocks, and you can edit things. So if you click on it, it's going to pop up a text editor, and in that text editor you can change the text, you can change the styles of it easily. There's a lot more options compared to the default editor that WordPress comes with. So that's where these page editors make it really good. So if you're looking for an affordable website, WordPress is the way to go, because you can pretty much host it anywhere. And so you can find a low-cost host that provides good service. I usually use a hawk host because they're affordable. They provide relatively good, stable, reliable service. I've been using them for years without any real issues. Their tech support's been good to me. I have no real complaints. So, for basic website hosting, they're definitely a great option for basic, websites and stuff. When you start getting more resource intensive, then you may want to invest in something that's a bigger website hosting solution. But for the most part, you can find a low-cost host with, that supports WordPress, install a WordPress website on it, and then start building a website with these page builders, and it can do a really good job. But you can see that it's just doing this. Let me see something here. Now, in WordPress specifically, what you would need to do is use a layout, and I'm not sure. Okay. This theme does support a layout, so a full width layout. I can't remember what theme I'm using. I just chose something that said it was supported by a different page builder. So here is, you can see I changed the layout of it by changing, I changed the template, and then that makes this whole section something I can change the width of. So if I want an image, say I want that handshake background, handshake image to be a background, that's what I'm trying to say. So I'll show you what I can do with this. So if I edit the row, I probably need to explain this a bit better. I have videos on this in more detail, and I will create some more as well. But the main thing is that you want to edit the row. So this is a row, and then you have columns, and then you can add multiple columns. And with WordPress, Beaver Builder in WordPress, Beaver Builder has different modules, rows, and templates, and you can just drag and drop your blocks on here, and it builds the page. So it gives you a live preview of what the page is going to kind of look like. It isn't always fully accurate until you actually save the page and then view it, but it is a really cool editor, and I'll show you the difference between it and Elementor. But it's a pretty good tool here. So this is just a free version of Beaver Builder. I did not activate a license on this. This is just another local development website. I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. So my ability to do certain things is limited. But anyway, if I edit this row, I can actually do different things and, build it out. So now you can see that it's extended past this point, and now it's taking up full space. I can change this and scroll down, and I can actually set a background image for it. So I can choose photos and choose an image here. So I've got that, and then you can see that there. I can delete that to remove it, and I could do a whole bunch of different things with it, but nothing is going to beat that ZipWP though. But as far as ease of use and everything. But you can see that I've totally changed the look of the page now, because now I've made this a full screen image. Okay, I still have this title up here. I can disable that title, I think, in the settings. I'll have to look at that. But you can see that I have this title, and it's really small on the screen. But one of the cool things about Beaver Builder is that if I go under like style, and then I see this typography, if I click on this little icon with a computer screen, I can actually preview, oh, well, this is what it might look like on a large screen, like a laptop. If I click it again, this is what it might look like on a tablet. If I click it again, it's going to show me a phone. Of course, it's kind of long, but that's just because I have a big screen. But it just kind of gives you an idea, of what it will look like without having to use the scary development tool in the browser. And so you can modify this so that it uses different settings on those screen sizes. So if I put in a value here, like that, it's going to apply that setting in this mobile style. If I go to the large screen and then I apply a setting, say 60, and let's make it more visible. Okay, we'll apply that. I can also apply a text shadow to it. So I had to first choose a color. So we'll choose black. Oops. And choose a blur. So we'll use 10 and we'll choose an offset. There. Alright, so now this text is sticking out, it stands out more. It's much easier to read. And then I can change this according to the different screen sizes. So see, I can adjust it, and I can adjust it again, and I can adjust it so that it looks how I want it on the different screen sizes. Easily, all from, Beaver Builder. So that's what I like about this tool. Now, as you can see, I'm still stuck in this. I can exit out, and, there I'm back into the editor. I also have the ability to do different things with it. So I can apply a, where is it? Background overlay. So I can apply a color over this. Oh, now you can see, oops, there we go. And then I can fade it. So see, I can darken that text so the, darken the image so that the text pops out is what I'm trying to say. And I can save that. I can add buttons. So I can, go up to my little add thing here and drag and drop a button on here. And then I can, put in some sort of action or something. Get started. And I can adjust it and then set the size and do different things with it. So let's try making it a bit bigger, and let's add, a bold font, and I can, add some padding around the button and link it, and you can see that it's, changing the appearance of it. I can also change the backgrounds and different things like that. So there's all kinds of settings that make it so that I can control the look of the buttons and stuff like that. I can change what it looks like when someone puts their mouse over it on a computer. So I can make it, change colors. I can tell it, enable a background animation. I can do an auto gradient and stuff. So it has different built-in styles with it. I can also make it a rounded button too. But you can see there's a lot more things that go into designing this than, say, using ZipWP. So if you're looking for the easiest solution, that's what I would recommend is ZipWP. But it's still, Beaver Builder is definitely a great tool that you can use to do different things with it. So you can see the button is now rounded and everything. I can also center this heading, align, and I can make it giant. And then I can preview this heading, on different sizes, and I can adjust it. So it's like, maybe I want it on 90. Oops, not 890, 90. And then I can change it to 70 or something. So I can change the value, and it has little sliders, tool. So you can adjust it. So it's like, well, let's make it this big on the mobile device. And then I can, preview it and see what it's doing here. So let's change this. We can change the size of this text and center it. So see, this could be a potential design for like a landing page. Of course, you can get rid of these columns, like so, and it still centers it because of the settings in there. So I have the ability to change all of these things and do it all through Beaver Builder and set the different styles and different settings and change it for the different screen sizes. So that's a quick demonstration of what you can do with Beaver Builder. Now there's a whole lot more you can do with it. You can make videos, well, you can add videos, not make videos with it, but you can add videos to it as like a video background. You can drop in videos to display on the page. You can do different things. Let's see. Alright, now for Elementor. Elementor is something I don't really have experience with because I don't use it. As I said, I think it's more expensive. It requires a subscription. I'm currently on a trial to demonstrate it. But it just kind of has similar tools and things. So if you want to add something to the page, you have to drag and drop it into this little box, apparently. And you can see here's a default button. And you can see different default styles in there. If you click on style, you can change the alignment. And you can do a lot of the same things. So if I wanted to make a rounded button, I should be able to. If I just set it to 50, 50 is a good way to get it to round. Typography, if we click on that, it should give us the ability to change the size. So you can see that. Let's just try and recreate what I did with Beaver Builder in this thing. You can see the different styles of tools and things. Let's see, it's text shadow. Oops. I was trying to find... Oh, I'm blind. Okay. Alright, there we go. Well, see an option. Well, I don't see an option to set the hover code, but it does have some padding, so if we set the padding, oops, okay, disable that. I'll set it to what I had it before. Okay. And then you can change the font and stuff. But you can see there's definitely some differences here. Probably need to something like that. How do I... Okay. Well, I guess I saved the changes there. But it's a different set of tools. I'm not gonna waste a bunch of time trying to learn how to do it, but you can see that there's different things. You can add a spacer in there. You can add different things and change the size. So that's an interesting thing. You can drop in a map. You can use icons, different elements. You can see that they have a bunch of pro options here that are not available in this free trial. Also has different containers that you can drop in, although it doesn't seem like it took. Not really sure what it's doing there, but in any case, there's different page builders. You can put together a layout. Of course, it's not nearly as easy as ZipWP. ZipWP does it all for you. But if you're more of a, looking for something that you can customize and put together yourself, use a page builder. Highly recommend Beaver Builder over other options. So if I refresh this page, you can see it's different. Of course, I'm used to it, so it's easy to do. but it comes with a lot of stuff, and this is just a free version of Beaver Builder, not the pro version. So if it's a site that I've designed for you, you have the pro version, and so you'll be able to access all the neat features with Beaver Builder, and you know, be able to save the different components and reuse them. You can do different things. You can save a whole page layout as a template. You can do a whole lot of things with it. Check time. Okay, it's starting to run a bit low on time. Alright, so that's just kind of how that works. You can also use, as I mentioned before, about image editors. So say you have an image that you want to resize. So say you have a really large image. Let me see if I can find one real quick here. Sorry, I have 4 million things I'm gonna pull up here. Find my photos here. I have all kinds of stuff, so let's just choose something with an animal or something. Here, we'll choose something like that. Okay, so we have this giant image. Well, let's say we want to use it as a background. Well, the size is very large, so if we go to basic resize, we can see that the size says 2560, 2560 basically, by 1600. That's generally too big for, you know, I typically use 1920, which is in pixels. So these values are in pixels. That's a standard size for an image, and it just means little dots. How many dots, you know, go across the page. So if you use 1920, and it automatically resizes it there, like the height automatically, because this is set. You can resize it using this online editor and then apply so that it's, you know, smaller. So now it's a good size for a background image. And then you can actually save the image as a JPEG. And, let's see. Well, I'll just save it as an example. Here, we'll just use that. Now we've saved this image. And it's still pretty big, so let me go back. I'm gonna jump in here real quick. Blog. Should see it in here. Oh, there it is. Now, you can see that it has a size over here. This is the file size. Images are not going to be too big. You can generally just drag and drop whatever image into an image optimizer like a tiny PNG, or you can use one called Tiny Image, so tiny-img.com. These are two free ones that you can use, and you can just drag and drop the image onto there. I don't know why it didn't take. There it goes. Alright, there. So now you can see it's compressed it, and it says, look, we saved you this much space. So it shrunk it by 46%. And then I can download this optimized image, and we'll call it just compressed. And then if we compare it, there we go. We can see that the file sizes are definitely different, and we can see that the compressed version is much smaller than the other one. And so the smaller, you know, compressed version is the one that you're going to want to use on your website, because it's going to take less time for it to load that when all the files are, you know, loaded on your website. It's going to take, you know, some amount of time for it to load all of those resources. And so by making those as small as you can, it helps to reduce the amount of time it takes to load the website. Alright, so it doesn't look like I've got any questions or anything. But these are just some things that you can do to design your website and optimize it so that it will be good to help you with selling and helping people have a good experience on your website. If you have questions, feel free to let me know. And yeah, I think this is about it. So, pretty close to time. But I hope this was informative for you. And yeah, I think I'll call it a night and see you next time.